Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. My guest today is Tyler Pigott. Tyler has spent years in the marketing messed up that intro. Let's try that again.
It's all right.
It's all right. It's live. It's all good.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. My guest today is Tyler Pigott. Tyler has spent years in the marketing and communications, working with unique technologies and groups of people. He is the CEO and founder of Lone Fir Creative, a digital marketing agency that improves the path to purchase and creates optimal conditions to acquire new business. Tyler is also a professional speaker and a sought-after business coach, working side by side with entrepreneurs, founders, leaders, helping them navigate change, sidestep obstacles, and achieve long-term stability. He has a passion for serving others and seeing their ideas gain traction and become successful. So this is going to be a great conversation today. I love hanging out with other digital marketers. Tyler, thank you so much for joining me, and welcome to the show.
No, thanks for having me. This is going to be fun. I love listening to the intro that I wrote and going, I hope I can back that up, and I hope that people like to listen. So this will be fun.
Well, you're going to have your chance right now, because what I ask everyone is who you are and what makes you so amazing.
Who I am and what makes me so amazing. One of the things I'd say that makes me a little bit unique is I really like people. I love to be around people. I love to see them thrive and see them succeed, and how can I kind of come alongside and help people get wins. And so translating that into running a business, translating that into building teams over the years, translating that into executing services and those types of things, that does allow me to kind of, jump in the shoes of that customer or of that person that I'm helping cheer for or helping push forward, and kind of try to understand empathetically, just what makes them tick and how to help them. And so I'd say that is one of the things personally that makes me unique. I've also been through just a lot of different scenarios in life, from being part of an entrepreneurial family and watching my dad grow a business to 500-600 employees across the West Coast, to growing up on a Christmas tree farm, to paying my way through college as a DJ, to working in corporate America for a while, to start my own gig. And so I've kind of gotten to pull from so many different, unique experiences. And I'd say I'm kind of the sum of parts of all my mistakes, if you will, at this point. And so anyway, I love to coach people through that and kind of cheer for them, like I said. But that's a little bit of me, and excited to jump into more of the convo here.
I love it. Thank you so much. So it sounds like you're a fellow corporate refugee, like I am. I would drive 45 minutes in order to go into an office, get my work done by 11:30 in the morning. And this was before we had like great internet, right? So I would just sit there and have to figure out how to look busy until 5-6 in the afternoon.
Sure.
And I wasn't a smoker, so I couldn't go hang out with the cool kids outside. So I would just bring all kinds of materials in with me. I would if anyone walked past my desk, right, they would see me furiously working away. I would win awards, most productive person, whatever. And nobody knew. And it was it was crazy. It was crazy to think that, and starting out your entrepreneurial journey, of course, I'm sure you had some similar fears, but I was scared, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I had been fired so many times already, fired, laid off, downsized,
Sure.
what have you.
Yeah.
You just get numb to the experience. And once you make the decision for yourself, for your family, and for who you've been called to serve, to actually do something and make it yourself and make it happen for other people. I think that's one of the greatest gifts that we can give this planet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of fear, I think, for lots of people that do that. You're kind of jumping off a cliff a little bit to the unknown, especially for a lot of first timers out there. And it's tough. I had little kids and a mortgage and a family and a wife and all the stuff, when I first started. And so, your first hurdle is like, hey, man, how do I figure out how to put food on the table and pay my bills?
who's going to support my Starbucks habit?
Yeah, totally. Exactly. And to that end, you do have to give up some stuff in that first season, because there's a significant chance that you're having to hustle pretty hard. So anyway, I know that's not what we're here to talk about, but
I love it. No,
builds a lot of tenacity and perseverance for sure.
It brings a lot of color to the conversation, because it's really going to highlight what we're going to talk about next.
Hmm.
So one of the big things that your agency focuses on is customer journey,
Hmm.
right? And this is one of the subjects, especially in the digital marketing service industry, that people don't talk about too much. It's like a plumber will basically say, well, I go and fix plumbing in people's houses, or, like people that go and build websites. Well, what kind of websites do I build? Do I build it just for dentists, or do I build it for
Sure.
anybody who comes across my plate? One of the interesting things about that, and I was also part of this crowd where I didn't want to niche down,
Hmm.
right? Where I was like, no, I can do anything and everything. I have a broad skill set. I can make it happen for just about anybody. And it took me a lot of years and a lot of, people you know, trying to knock some sense into my skull,
Yeah.
just to understand that you cannot be everything to everybody. You just become mediocre to everybody, but you
Hmm.
don't become great to, this one group. Let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about, first of all, defining, who your customer is, and
Hmm.
then how you craft that journey. What is that
Yeah.
like in your agency?
Yeah. First off, for what we feel like we specialize in is really kind of, understanding the current landscape for clients, kind of where they're at now, uncovering where they want to go, and then helping make recommendations to get there. I think, from a marketing standpoint, there's in my opinion or observation, there's very few people that don't have something stood up, whether it's a landing page that they built on Squarespace or something, or they've got social media going on because they've dabbled in it, or they've got a friend or a son or a daughter or something that works on it. So there's very few people that are starting at the very beginning of kind of like their journey. And most of the time you're not hiring an agency or bringing in an outside advisor or something like that on day one. And so you've kind of got some, I call it Frankenstein or hodgepodge together, activities, tactics, campaigns, things that you're working on. And so I would say like one of the things so anyway, that's what we specialize in, is we jump in and we really help uncover where you're at and help you build out and map out that customer journey. But Jeff, to answer your question, as far as kind of like figuring out, who's my customer, how do I narrow that down? Who do I serve? A lot of it is looking at your current customers. Who do you serve now? Who do you like, working with? Who are maybe some of the more profitable ones? And then kind of dissecting that from industries and understanding, oh, we serve this industry really well. And then kind of, so really like data collection, if you will, from previous customers, or even if you're just starting out, previous jobs, things that you have knowledge in, things that you're passionate about, is really helpful as well, because it does help you kind of build out that message and keep kind of moving forward in it. But then also mixing that kind of data collection, analyzing, mixing that with where are the opportunities, and trying to understand, hey, is there an opportunity to sell XYZ product or service into this industry or into this specific, niche of this industry? And so kind of mixing those two is a big piece of the first aspect of building that customer journey, because you've got to understand, where they are. You've got to understand, how to go after them, in some ways, what content to write, what ads to create, what creative to develop, things that are going to be applicable or appealing to that initial, or to that customer that you feel like you have an expertise to sell in. So I don't know if does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, basically, what we're talking about here is, we're not talking about writing an autobiography of your ideal
No.
avatar. No, we're a good 2 to 3 pages. I would say, you want to get into their wants and needs. You may want to define a little bit about, what makes them interesting. What are their motivations, right? I
Mm.
think one of the, what motivates them to do what they do. And one of the better examples I use is doctors in this case, right? If you're trying to
Sure.
market to a doctor, generally, right, they've probably taken one class out of the 10 years that they've studied in business and marketing, right?
Yeah.
Everything else is, human body and, how they're going to attend to that. So what happens? They hire that out. There are whole practice management agencies that come in and just take over everything. Their job is to see 40, 50 patients a day. And
Yeah.
and what makes them really good clients for a digital marketing agency in particular is that as long as their bank account is larger, than the month before,
Yeah.
normally they're pretty happy, right? Because they're
Right.
not going to look at your report so much. They just want to know that things are working,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But not everyone is blessed with that kind of let's just call it almost recession proof type of business. A lot of us
Hmm.
need to hustle for it. We need to find new ways to to generate leads. We need to make sure that we're serving these people to the highest level. We need to be producing great content so that it talks to them and it meets them at the point where where they are in the decision making process.
Yeah.
Let's take this a little bit deeper then. Once you've identified like who the who the customer is, what are some of the steps you do to help your clients sort of craft that journey? And does it change a little bit per industry in your experience? Or is it more of a, here's a linear path. This is what we put the other guy on. And, we want to put you on the same path as well. How does that look in your case?
Yeah, I mean, there are nuances, I guess, for different industries, and a lot of that I would say mixes with how they sell in that industry. And so, we most of our clients are kind of in that business to business, that B2B space, and so many of the B2B type relationships require you to talk to a salesperson or to talk to a sales team and to kind of talk through what you're, working on. So maybe it's like enterprise sales or something like that. But if we're working with clients in that space that really have like a almost like a touchless or a no touch type of a sales process, that's where you might differentiate a little bit with what you're trying to do. Because when you are relying on a salesperson, you're able to kind of educate a buyer enough to get to the spot where they're wanting to talk to somebody, and then that person can kind of take it from there. But when there's no seller in the mix, you need to educate and kind of build the momentum, if you will, for that product or service without talking to an individual. And so then there's a lot more that needs to be kind of created for that. So I would say like there is some nuances for different, different industries, different types of clients, different businesses. But a lot of it's similar because, what you really have to start with is like building awareness and attracting your potential prospects, and so going back to who are the people you sell to. And, I'd even add, Jeff, you had a great description to those doctors, but I'd even add, really honing in on what's their pain point or their problem that they're needing to solve. And that can get really hard to do. Lots of businesses have a really hard time with that. I would say even like generalized, back to your example of like doctors, well, what is it? Who do they serve? Is it literally they serve anybody under the sun that has a heartbeat? Well, that's fine, but make sure that you've got some sort of a differentiator, if you will, for that type of an individual. I oftentimes use the example of plumbers because everybody relates to that. If your pipes leak, there's a serious problem, and that's why lots of those plumbing industries or those vendors have like a 24-hour service because they're going to come fix your leaking pipe or whatever that might look like. And so like a plumber is a great example of kind of really being able to hone in on that. But the first stage really is building that awareness and kind of starting to attract those customers, which you'd kind of call that, if you're looking at like funnels, oftentimes people use a funnel example. Some people use a flywheel example. They're both different in some ways, but that kind of top of funnel, really there's going to be a larger group of people that you're trying to attract. And that's what your main focus is initially to kind of get them into your ecosystem or your community, if you will.
Those are all very good examples. I want to beat this up just a little bit more. I want to get your take on this. So plumbers, locksmiths, doctors,
Sure.
Okay. All of these people, I don't know any of them, right? I don't. And the only time I ever have an interaction with them is when a pipe exploded, I get locked out of my house. And then it's like, now you have to build trust instantly, right? It's a totally different ball game instead of, seeking seeking a pediatrician, right? Who maybe you're going to have a longer relationship with, or your primary care physician or a gynecologist, someone who you're going to have a longer relationship with, right? Yeah. When you're working with businesses that have that longer relationship with, those I think are a little bit more interesting because, you have, first of all, you have more time to build up that trust. You're able to put out a lot more information. I mean, frankly, if a locksmith puts out a blog, who cares? Right? No one's going to read it. Right.
Yeah.
But if but if an OBGYN is putting out, a bunch of articles on women's health and they're, and they talk about the benefits and the drawbacks of having a midwife and, all that stuff. Right. Yeah. That's going to build a lot more trust. That's going to build a lot more character as to what kind of physician this person is.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about, people with those longer relationships? Basically, part of this customer journey, right, is, building and nurturing that relationship, right?
Hmm.
What are some
Yeah.
of the steps you talk about then that go into nurturing the relationship and building that up from there?
Yeah, great question. I would say that what you talked about as far as like that length of relationship is the references you made were after they've, quote unquote purchased, they've signed up or they've booked an appointment or something like that. It's a helpful to like look at that length of relationship and then also probably associate that with maybe the length of time it takes, like the buying cycle, if you will, or the time it takes from them to become aware of you to be in the shopping mode, if you will, or research mode till when they might book an appointment. And so um, it's helpful to know that because if you go back to that locksmith example, well, probably I'm doing like a quick, maybe say Google search or a local search really fast because I'm needing them to help me in my house or my car or whatever. And so the buying time is really quick. And so you've got to build that trust differently than if you are trying to like maybe educate a client for how you work with your potential prospects or whatnot. And so a lot of the understanding in that is lots of different question asking for at least how we function. And most of the time we're talking to people that are either buyers and they've made that decision and kind of understanding, well, what are the things that contributed to that decision making process. And so you're really trying to ramp people into making a decision. And so that can be in tons of different forms. At this point, I would say in our world, there's lots of different influencers, if you will. And so influencers on different brands. And so the brands that take a little bit of a longer purchasing time, then those brands are ones that are producing lots of content showing maybe either how their product works, the benefits of their product or service, how it works longer term. I mean, they're really educating you to kind of build that trust and ramping you into making that decision. And so there's lots of different stepping stones, if you will, to move someone from general interest all the way to when they might book an appointment or they might hit the buy button or whatever that looks like for them. So a lot of it's just really trying to get in those buyers' shoes and understanding what are the different things that are helping them along that journey. And it can range. It can be different for different industries. But I'd say that's your first kind of thing is to really, and honestly, the biggest benefit or the best way to do that is to talk to your sales team if you have one, or talk to your salespeople, because most of the time they have all of those answers. They know what the pain points are, and then you can kind of reverse engineer some of the different, maybe say it's content or it's educational materials around that, but talk to a salesperson in your organization or people that have been that in the past, because they oftentimes hold a lot of the answers.
Amazing. Tyler, thank you so much for breaking that down. I really appreciate it. Uh, can you please let everyone know how they can learn more about your company and how they can reach out to you directly?
Sure. Yeah. Lonefircreative.com is our website. And I think it's in the lower third here of the video, which is great. So feel free to check us out there. We do create a lot of content. We do try to follow and be our own best client. And so kind of to ramp people into education and those types of things. The other thing, check me out on LinkedIn. First name's Tyler, last name's Pigott. Just spell it out. I'm on LinkedIn, try to post there on a very regular basis. And that's been a fun way to connect individually with people too.
Amazing. Tyler, thank you for joining me today. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
I love nerding out on this stuff, as you can tell. So I really appreciate you taking the time to explain these concepts to us.